Hello, and welcome back to the Sleep Clinic. It's me again, Dr. Slumberland. And how are you doing since our last session? We were discussing Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Interesting. That's always a good answer. Have you been using the needs as a checklist like we discussed? Okay, good. That's excellent. So, your assignment, so to speak, from our previous session was thinking about your purpose, your passion or passions in life. And our session today will focus around this concept of self-actualization, or meeting and exceeding our full potential. Self-actualization is defined in a variety of ways. What we'll be using today are what are referred to as the 12 characteristics of a self-actualized person. And we may only have time to get through some of them in this session, but we'll do our best. And just remember that self-actualization is at the top of Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This was a group of human needs that Maslow formulated based on his observation of happy, fulfilled, successful people, with self-actualization being at the top. So, let's begin, shall we? Self-actualization occurs when you maximize your potential, doing the best that you are capable of doing. Maslow studied individuals whom he believed to be self-actualized, including Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, and others, to derive the common characteristics of the self-actualized person. And here are those characteristics. Self-actualized people embrace the unknown and the ambiguous. The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. They are not threatened or afraid of the unknown. Instead, they accept it, are comfortable with it, and are often attracted to it. They do not cling to the familiar. So, as a characteristic, having an inclination or interest in things which are unknown or mysterious, and just in general, being able to come out of our comfort zone and try new things. Anytime we want to change our state, whether it's to improve our mood or to get stronger or faster or more calm, more happy, whatever that may be, anytime we want change, there usually has to be some certain amount of coming out of our comfort zone and doing things that are new, that are maybe a little scary. And so this is a great little kind of tip you can take with you into your life, and just noticing when you are frightened or resistant to change or things that are unknown, and challenging yourself to embrace the unknown, or at least to come out of your comfort zone enough that you can try new things, maybe go new places, and just start to introduce subtle, gentle changes into your life. I think it's maybe the simplest way to observe how coming out of our comfort zone is so beneficial. Can be with an example of trying to get more fit or more flexible, coming out of the comfort of our couch and trying something new like yoga or lifting weights or walking around the block is what it's going to take to create those changes that we want to see in our bodies. So think to yourself about something you can do that maybe feels a little scary or unknown. And think about creating the intention and the courage to try that new thing. The next characteristic of self-actualized people, they accept themselves together with all their flaws. She perceives herself as she is, not as she would prefer herself to be. With a high level of self-acceptance, she lacks defensiveness or artificiality. Eventually, shortcomings come to be seen not as shortcomings at all, but simply as neutral personal characteristics. To quote Maslow, they can accept their own human nature in the Stoic style, with all its shortcomings, with all its discrepancies from the ideal image, without feeling real concern. Simply noting and observing what is the case, without arguing the matter or demanding it to be otherwise. This is right in line with the part of our discussion in our last session about accepting ourselves, not judging ourselves, and treating ourselves with the same kindness and compassion with which we would treat our best friend or our little sister or our own son or daughter. Oftentimes when we start to listen to the little voice inside our heads, it's just always going, always thinking, no matter what we're doing, a lot of times that voice can be very judgmental. That voice may be telling us that we're not smart enough, or we can't get anything done, or we're not strong enough, or whatever, not something enough. So letting go of those judgments that we have about ourselves and truly accepting ourselves is a big component of this self-actualization and true happiness. But just remember that this is a journey, and no journey is made in an instant, unless you have a teleporter, okay, teleportation machine. But that all change occurs over time. And the more gentle and slow we can be with these changes, the easier they are. So thinking about trying to make a huge change overnight can feel really overwhelming. So just accept that your journey toward self-acceptance and self-compassion is just that, a journey, and that you let go of the frustrations or the judgments or apprehensions that you may have. Let all of that go and just focus on accepting yourselves. And I think that I really like this part about eventually perceived shortcomings come to be seen not as shortcomings at all, but simply as neutral personal characteristics. And to not feel regretful about our bad habits or whatever else it may be. Self-actualized people. Number 3, they prioritize and enjoy the journey, not just the destination. I think that this is kind of a perfect segue from the last characteristic, and accepting that we are on a journey. We are malleable. We are constantly changing. We're dynamic. And in this movement and dynamic changing and improving of our health and our lifestyle and our mental relationship with ourselves, enjoying and accepting the journey for what it is, rather than only looking at the destination. When our focus is only on our destination and where we want to be, not only does all the time and the journey maybe just fly by, but it's not going to be as effective as when we're truly present with the moment and present with the journey that we're on. And rather than focusing on the destination and how far away it seems, you just keep your focus on the fact that you are making changes, you are making improvements, and every little piece, every little step is just as important as the final destination to which you are moving. Moving on to number 4, self-actualized people. While they are inherently unconventional, they do not seek to shock or disturb. Unlike the average rebel, the self-actualized person realizes the world of people in which he lives could not understand or accept his unconventionality. And since he has no wish to hurt them or fight with them over every triviality, he will go through the ceremonies and rituals of convention with a good-humored shrug and the best possible grace. Self-actualized people would usually behave in a conventional fashion simply because no great issues are involved, or because they know people will be hurt or embarrassed by any other kind of behavior. So, a great example that most of us have experienced are bullies. So bullies seek to shock and disturb. That's what they do, right? Whether it's a troll on the internet or on the YouTube, or whether it's a bully at school or within our family sometimes. The entire purpose that the bully and their bullying are trying to achieve are to shock and disturb other people. And so, self-actualized people do not seek to shock or disturb. And I think this is a great kind of tangible example of the fact that people who are mean to others, people who bully others, or that seek to shock and disturb others simply for the amusement of being shocking or disturbing, are often not the happiest or most self-actualized or fulfilled people. And a good sign of someone that is fulfilled and self-actualized, and I think a happy person, is that they try to make others comfortable more than trying to shock or disrupt other people or the environment around them. And I think we can observe in ourselves that when we do feel an inclination to disturb someone or say something rude or harsh to someone else, that inclination is often rooted in our own self-judgment. And similarly, when other people are rude or disruptive to us, that we take that with a grain of salt and just remember that that person's rude comment or mean thing they said has a lot less to do with us personally and a lot more to do with that person and that person's relationship with themselves. So it kind of reminds me of that saying, I'm rubber and you're glue, and the things you say to me bounce off of me and stick to you. Just knowing that when other people are being mean to us, that the more that we can maybe feel a sense of empathy for that person, and just knowing that that cruelty that they're inflicting towards another person stems from their own sadness and self-judgment, we can start to detach ourselves from those mean things that person is saying and just exercise a feeling of compassion for that person. because if they were truly happy and healthy and self-actualized, they wouldn't be being mean to you. They wouldn't be saying hurtful things to other people. It's definitely easier said than done to not let things hurt our feelings. It's natural for our feelings to be hurt. But this is a great example of how mean people sometimes deserve our compassion and sympathy, because that cruelty is emanating from a place of being really hurt, being really sad. Okay, so that moves us on to characteristic number 5. Self-actualized people are motivated by growth, not by the satisfaction of needs. While most people are still struggling with the lower rungs of the hierarchy of needs, the self-actualized person is focused on personal growth. Quote, "Our subjects no longer strive in the ordinary sense, but rather develop. They attempt to grow to perfection and to develop more and more fully in their own style. The motivation of ordinary men is a striving for the basic need gratifications that they lack." So getting into, I think, slightly less tangible characteristics, but this is still something that I think each of us can observe within ourselves. And just thinking about this concept of personal growth and personal development, and knowing that when we move into that space of wanting to improve ourselves, personal growth, personal development, that simply that intention to want to improve ourselves, rather than simply being focused on the more physical needs that we went over in our last session, simply having this intention for wanting to improve and grow as a person is in itself one of the characteristics of a self-actualized person, is in itself part of the journey towards improved confidence, happiness, and reduced stress and anxiety. I think this dovetails nicely into the characteristic number 6. Self-actualized people have purpose. They have some mission in life, some task to fulfill, some problem outside themselves which enlists much of their energies. This is not necessarily a task that they would prefer or choose for themselves. It may be a task that they feel is their responsibility, duty, or obligation. In general, these tasks are non-personal and unselfish, concerned rather with the good of mankind in general. So this brings us kind of full circle to where we were at the conclusion of our last session, talking about purpose. For me, the words purpose and passion are quite aligned. I have a passion for trying to help others live happier, better lives. I have a passion for creating positive things and beautiful things. And I think that this little piece, that oftentimes the purpose is not necessarily a task they would prefer or choose for themselves, but something they feel is their responsibility or obligation. In general, these tasks are non-personal and unselfish and concerned with the good of mankind in general. So as we close our session today, let's talk about your purpose, your passions. Did you think of some passions that you have since our last session? That's a good one. Caring about animals and the environment. I mean, these are definitely important things. So yes, that definitely counts. I think it's perhaps worth mentioning that you never have to ask, does that count? Does this count? Does that count? Anything that you feel strongly about and passionately about. I mean, not to use the word to define the word, but a passion is just something that you feel passionately and strongly about. And in that sense, anything counts. No? Whatever you feel strongly about and compelled to do, boom. That's your purpose, your passion, and everything counts. Anything is fair game. You know, when we look at the world around us, there's just not only millions of people, obviously, but millions of purposes and passions. And virtually it's different for everyone, right? Some people are passionate about art, about music, about knowledge, teaching, history, about the environment, about people in need around the world. That maybe your passion is just that you care about other people and you want to do things to try and improve the lives of people around the world. Volunteering our time or our money, if we have that at our availability, is a fantastic way to express that desire to help others, and certainly to kind of satisfy that need to create something positive and that need to reach out and improve the world around us. I would just echo one last time. In general, these tasks are non-personal. In general, these tasks are non-personal, unselfish, and concerned with the good of mankind. So certainly not all of them fall into that category, But I think that it's a very good general definition that we can use. So, I think that covers a lot of ground for this session. There are 6 more characteristics of a self-actualized person, but I want to go ahead and save those for our next session because we've covered a lot of ground today, given you a lot of things to think about. So, resonate on all of these topics and characteristics that we have discussed, and I'll see you at your next session. I hope that our discussions of humanistic psychology and Maslow's hierarchy of needs are helping to bring you some relief from the stress or anxiety that you've been feeling. And maybe you are already experiencing the improved sleep and relaxation that this positive psychology can bring. Thank you so much for coming into the sleep clinic, and I'll see you on your next visit.